What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Ryan Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live. What's up, Av Geeks? Thanks so much for joining us. It's Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of SuperAero Live, and tonight is kind of special. First off, you might notice we're not actually live. This was recorded last week, but myself and all the guests will be in the chat, doing the chatses, so you can chat with us while we watch together tonight. It's going to be super awesome. So excited to have this group of people on tonight. They came to me, which is amazing, and they were like, hey, we got to talk about experimental aircraft. So let's do that right now with our esteemed panel. Wow! That is the most guests I've ever had simultaneously on this show. We got, we over here, we got Flight Chops, we got Christine the Plane Lady, we got Gil, oh man, I'm getting it all confused. Jason Ellis is here, everyone's here. I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you real quick, but the goal of tonight is to answer all of you. We went out to the communities, and we said, what do you have, questions do you have about building your own aircraft in your house, in your garage, with wind chimes, and you guys responded. You guys responded. You guys asked a bunch of questions about building your own home-built aircraft, and we assembled the Wonder Team to answer them for you. So I'm going to go around the room. First, let's start with Jason Ellis. What are you doing, man?
Hey, guys. Doing great. My name is Jason Ellis, and I am building a Vans RV-10. I've been doing it for a little over 5 years now. The project never ends, but I love it, and I try to be available to answer questions, and I'm excited to be here, man. It's cool.
Dude, thank you so much for coming. And then near me, my neighbor, up north, Gil. What's up, man? Am I pronouncing that? It's Gil, right?
It's Gil. Yeah, the U is silent. So I'm Gil. I'm on the Build Fly Go channel on YouTube. I'm building an RV-10 now. I have built and I fly an RV-9A, and you've maybe seen me sort of fly that. I'm not going to say all over the world, but fairly far south and pretty north too.
Awesome. All right. And then, of course, Christine from, I don't even know where you're from, but Christine's from someplace, and she's here tonight.
I'm actually down in Texas, so I'm in the Houston area. And yes, I'm Christine from Plane Lady. I have my YouTube channel and Instagram. I am building an RV-10 as well with my husband in our garage, and just trying to document the process and share any helpful little information that we come across throughout the build.
Rock on. Thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Flight Chops is here. Or just Chops, I guess, tonight.
I run a channel called Flight Chops. It's mostly about lots of different types of flying. I've been carrying around a picture of an RV-7, I think since like 2001 when it was released, the first marketing stuff. And I had an inkjet printer, and I printed a little wallet-sized picture, and I've still got it in my wallet. It was kind of, this is an attainable, cool-looking airplane. It's better looking than a Cessna, and I didn't know much about it at the time, but it obviously outperforms it as well, which is pretty cool. So that was kind of always a goal that I just kind of had, literally. Like, I remember watching some sort of self-help thing that said, make your goals tangible, like put it on your wall or carry the picture. So I did that. And now I'm building an RV-14 and documenting the process on my channel.
So I think people, for me, and viewers on my channel have known that I want to build, but I am not a builder yet, like the four of you. And we've covered it a couple times, but I would love to just start the conversation with, it feels like a massive undertaking. Like, why build? Why build an airplane? Why build your own airplane? I don't know who wants to start. Dig in.
Why not?
Why not?
So, well, why not isn't a great answer. I think for me, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but really what it came down to was when it was a choice between spending, almost $1 million on that Cirrus that I really would have loved to have had. I mean, I just can't afford it. And so it really came down to I'm going to build because I'm trading my time for money. And if I can build a very performant all-metal aircraft that's a 4-place go-getter, you know what I mean? That'll take me where I'll do it. It meets my mission. It meets my wife's mission. And I can do it for under 200 grand. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. And then it's just a matter of, it's also fun. You know what I mean? I like it.
I like the fun comment, right? I think other people have asked me, what you spend a lot of time doing this, right? And you guys have probably seen my recordings. I'm out there every day for hours. And it's the cheapest therapy I've ever bought.
Yeah.
I really kind of agree with Gil with that. Yeah, it's so relaxing. There's something when you're doing it that you can't really focus on everything else that's going on because you're so focused on the build and everything. And it really is nice and relaxing. And it beats just like, sitting in front of the TV at night. So
see, that's interesting you mentioned that. That's like flying for me. Like, I can't worry about, like, whether the dog crapped on the carpet when I'm in the airplane. I mean, I don't know, sorry. It's just like, so it's like an extension of that.
Unless
from
it's
my
the
perspective,
airplane.
I was intimidated by the idea of taking on a project was pretty intimidating. I'm probably the least qualified person here, I think. But I had a support system in place, and I knew if I was ever going to do it, I was going to need to do it with some support and help because I just simply didn't have time. I didn't have the space locally, but I knew I didn't need it because I had a system in place where we could do it the way I'm doing it, which is pretty unique. We're doing it at the museum where I fly warbirds, massive hangar, bunch of space, access to tools, and a whole bunch of awesome retired guys that just wanted to help. So it was kind of like, I would be crazy not to try to leverage this community and make this project happen within the context of this very unique situation that I've got. That kind of fits into the storytelling of what I do anyway. So for me, it's a kind of a weird situation, but I'm putting a lot of the energy into the filmmaking storytelling side of it. And I got a really great support system to help me learn. We've definitely destroyed some parts and, had to replace things, but it hasn't been as intimidating as I would have thought if I was on my own. But that's not to say don't try it if you are on your own. The community is so supportive that there's so much help you can get, even if it just means some coaching. It is doable, even if you don't know. I think that's what's impressed me the most is that not one of the tasks has been impossible once I was kind of shown how to do it. It's like this. It's not like I have to weld or something that I'm not trained to do. Like every single task can be broken down. Like you can't eat that elephant one bite at a time. It's not like you need some incredible skill set.
The community is amazing, and that's one of the things that I would like to I tell people all the time, because every airport that you go to has a huge, typically, EAA chapter that you reach out to those people, and they want to help you. I mean, I talk all the time on my channel that I'll be plugging away on something, and if my hangar's open, people just walk in and they want to help. They get excited for you. They want to help you. And so you've got these new people that they've never thrown a rivet. They don't even know what a bucking bar is. And these people will educate you. They will help you. And like when I started building, when I wanted to do this, I reached out to a guy on the forums and I was like, hey, is this a thing I could do? And he's like, yeah, come into my garage. I'll happily help you. And I looked at the address he sent me, and it was literally right down the street. It was 3 houses away from where I was renting my house. It was just this weird thing that happened. But everyone is so helpful. And so, you can do it. I mean, it's the community is amazing.
It is. When I started, I picked up my empennage kit, and I went to the local I was a not active EAA member at the time, and I went to a chapter meeting, and I said, hey, I got this kit. I'm sure someone here is building an airplane, right? It's the Experimental Aircraft Association meeting. And there was one of the guys that was there was building an RV-8, and he said, hey, why don't I, do you know where you're going to build? Are you set up? Why don't you come to my workshop, and then I'll go, when you start, we'll start building your empennage together, and I'll spend a day with you. And that was incredible, right? Because I got to see exactly how to do something and make a mistake and have them correct me and really learn how to do things. And then one day I picked up the basic skills, and then it's just practice, and you'll get plenty of practice on the kit.
So I think I had kind of a different experience than the rest of you guys, because we have a great EAA chapter out here, and I have a great technical advisor now with Joe, but we didn't start with having anybody around. Honestly, Jason, we started out watching a lot of your videos to see, can we do this? We'd seen the 1 week wonder there at Oshkosh in 2018, and that's kind of what got our gears turning about, maybe we could do this. But when we got started, we did the research about what tools and everything we needed. We'd watched a lot of different videos, both on YouTube and then also through EAA, through their the member section there where you can watch their videos. And we started out with one of the airfoil kits from Vans. And it's actually really funny because if you look at the first one that we both did, it was... I wouldn't want it on the actual plane, but it was a really good learning experience. The whole point was that, we didn't have someone there with us, but we had very similar things to what we were actually going to be using on the plane. And so using the airfoil kit to try and learn off of. And when we were finished, we said, okay, now we kind of know how everything works. Let's try again. We ordered another airfoil kit because now once we've figured out how all the tools work, it's now let's see if we can actually finesse it and feel more confident with it and try again. And after that one turned out really well, that's when we started working on the plane. Now, since then, we've had people who we've gone to their place or they've come to ours and helped teach us some stuff. But even, I guess, for anybody out there who's wondering whether or not they can do it, even if you don't have somebody who is physically next to you, nearby, that can help you, it still is doable. You still can go out and learn. And again, there's such a great community to ask questions if you run into a snag.
Rock on. So, okay. So you answered, I had a lot of questions that I wanted to serve up. You guys kind of answered all of them in the pre-build, kind of like, which is amazing, which is great. So I think the only thing I wanted to ask, and I think you guys probably get this question a lot, we joked at the top of the hour, like, oh, the Vans aircraft thing, but like, I'm curious, why for you guys is it Vans? Because in my brain, I'm like, oh, I should build a whatever the heck this thing is from 1933, or I should build a Flybaby, or I should build a Rans. Like, I don't know, my brain, I'm literally all over the place. So I would love to dig in, just like maybe it's a conversation just about mission.
Well, I'll jump in. Where did you guys start? So for me, again, it started with that picture because at that time I was in the same spot where Jason was, looking at the price of airplanes, and it was like either buy a used Cessna or Piper or like a PA-28 or something. That's kind of all I knew about at that time. I was looking at that stuff, and it's like they still aren't that exciting, right? Like it's like, even though, like, I like low wing better. Like, my dream is to fly a Spitfire, so that's kind of the archetype of an airplane to me. So yeah, I flew with Cessnas, and I felt like it was a station wagon, right? It's like it works, but you ain't going upside down, and you're not going to do anything too fun in that. So the idea that Vans aircraft look awesome, and they actually deliver with performance. They have flush rivets, like just so much more than you see in most kits. Some of the other kits are really, you look at it and it's not shocking that it's a kit, right? I mean, some of them just look less smooth and less beautiful. I don't know what else to say, right? It's come a long way, but Vans has been there for so long, having figured it out. They've just, I think it's the most prolific kit plane. Like there's more than 10,000 of them flying, right? So yeah. They've done it as far as figured it out and just really refined it, and the bubble canopy, low wing. And then you talk about missions. The joke is, to do what I want to do, I need 4 airplanes, right? Like I want one on floats. I want one that can go far and fast. I want one that can go upside down. I want one that can land almost anywhere. So obviously it's impossible to get everything into one airplane, but looking at the RV-14, I had to sacrifice the back seat because I wanted aerobatics. And the 10 can't do that.
I can do it once, probably.
Once.
Any airplane can do it once. So tailwheel also gives you more flexibility to land places I might not take a nose wheel, right? I still won't go to a crazy bumpy strip or something, but I'll take it in somewhere that I wouldn't try with nose wheel. So it gives me like, okay, I can land in more places. I can go upside down and I can go far and fast, and it's a great IFR platform. So, and with 2 people, it'll carry 100 pounds of bags. So that's close to all the missions I wanted. Can't land on water, can't land anywhere. So I can't do like the big tires thing with it, but it fit like 2.5 of the 4 missions. So that to me was why it was a no-brainer to pick the 14. And just picking vans in general was simply because to me it was like Kleenex as far as thinking of a kit plane that's awesome. Like every other kit plane I felt like was kind of a compromise whenever I looked at them. Vans has just been doing it so long, they've got it dialed in.
So that's a similar idea for me, right? My mission is to go places with an airplane and see things maybe in a slightly different way than I've seen them before, right? I mean, you can take an airliner pretty much anywhere and get in a cab and, and you're going to see that place. But if you fly there yourself, it's a different experience. It's, you're more invested in that day. You're more invested in what you're going to get out of it. And it's more enjoyable. And so I wanted at least 2 seats, right? 4 seats is great. 2 seats have worked for me so far, which is why I built the 9 and then the 8 first. And it's very cost effective to fly, right? I budget $50 an hour for my hourly costs. And that includes fuel, oil, my annual costs, all of that stuff. Of course, it doesn't cover like monthly fees like the hangar and insurance, but that's cheap, right? I mean, that's what you pay like a Cessna Club to pay hourly on a 172. Probably a lot more actually nowadays. So
yeah, I mean, my Cessna 172 Club is $65 an hour.
Right.
And it goes a lot slower.
It does, yeah. So it just made sense. So I was looking at a bunch of composite airplanes as well, right? Like the Lancer series. And every time I looked at that and I talked to people, and I quickly learned to ask, the important question with composite airplanes is how much of the build time was sanding? And that's not how I want to spend my life.
Or your lungs.
Right.
Or your lungs, yeah, I was about to say.
I think the mission thing was, again, kind of the starting point for us. And like you guys were saying, we wanted to be able to go places. We have a flying club that we're in now, and we have 3 Cessnas, but we wanted to be able to go faster and get to where we were wanting to go faster and have it as, our plane. And we had first been looking to buy a plane, but kind of the same thing, started looking at the cost, and suddenly, again, that 1 week wonder is where we first started watching. We were there spending hours like every day at AirVenture watching them build, and that's what kind of got us to start talking about it. And it was a perfect time because we were at Oshkosh, so we got the chance to go and walk around and look at everything. And once we said, we already kind of knew what our mission was, wanting to have a plane where we could travel. We wanted to have the 4 seats where we had the option to put somebody besides the 2 of us into the plane, or just to have the extra space if we wanted to put stuff in it when we were traveling, like to go camping or something. And it was great to be able to go and walk around all the different companies and get to go and actually get into the aircraft. That was the best part about having all this epiphany at Oshkosh, is that we were able to go and check it out. And I won't go into like all the detail. I have a different video about that if anyone wants to go and watch. But like the big thing I think that was great was being able to get in them. You can go and read specs and try and compare specs, but to actually be able to go and get in the plane and see how it feels and the comfort, and you start to realize things where it's like, I don't like this. I don't like this setup. I don't like this. It's one thing when you're reading, well, this cabin is 44 inches wide and this one's 48 inches wide. It's another thing when you actually get inside and you feel how much of a difference does that make, and how much more elbow room do you feel like you have or something like that. So that was the nicest thing for us. And when we got into the RV10, it felt like it was the most comfortable of all the ones we got into. Everything just kind of it fit. It was like a really good shoe or something that it just felt really comfortable. And it just, you're like, ooh, okay, I like this. I think this is where we want to go. And the community is a really big selling point in it. I'm having, Vans Air Force, all the different forums on social media. And I forget who said it earlier, but everyone's just so friendly and so nice. And then you kind of get really into it, and it's wanting to sort of like pay it forward. And so you want to try and help others too and share any little information that you get. So the community, the comfort, the performance, all of it came into play for us for what made us pick the RV10.
Yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer, really. So I think I'm kind of a mix of everybody, because when I was looking at it, I actually also was initially looking at composite aircraft, everything from what Gil was looking at to even some canards. And I got the opportunity to sit in a lot of different aircraft like Christine. And, when I started this, I'm 6'2", I've not shrunk, and 300 pounds, and I have shrunk there. So I couldn't fit. A buddy of mine flies a long EZ, and I'm scrunched up like this trying to sit in that thing. And same thing with the 152 and the 172, it was just uncomfortable. So for me, a big part was just comfort. If I'm going to do any sort of cross countries or anything like that, I just cannot abide being uncomfortable for long periods. And so I realized I had a mission that I wanted to be comfortable. That was really what my mission was. But then I realized very quickly that I wasn't the only one in this family that had a mission. And this is something that I tell people all the time. It's like, look, I'm building this airplane, but my wife has a mission too. She's going to want to be able to get in the airplane, and she's going to want to be able to bring the dogs. Yay. And she's going to want to be able to do all of her stuff. And so I have to take that into account. And so that's why we went with the RV10. It fits the mission. The price was right. And then like luck against luck. Like I said, I found a friend on a forum who's like, hey, come on, check mine. And he was 3 houses down, so it just kind of all worked out, serendipity, I guess.
Okay. So the next thing, and I don't want to be that guy, but can we talk about money for a second? I think people, I know there's a huge range of costs, right? We were talking last week on the show, a couple weeks ago on the show about scratch building. You can buy wood, one plank of wood at a time. But I'm wondering if anyone's comfortable, I'd love to understand a little bit about how a project like this is like what does it do to your pocketbook? I don't know. Someone help me out here.
Let me take it from the start. One of my people submitted the question of, do you have to order all the kits at once? And I didn't even, that was surprising to me as a question, but I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. If you're just getting into it, the airplane is sold in module kits. You don't need to buy them all at once. I think the joke is there's way more tail kits out there than there are anything else, because lots of people start and don't finish. The tail kit is what you start with. So absolutely, you don't need to buy all the kits at once. That's the whole way you budget, because you find out a lot of things as you're building, how fast you're going to be, and then you can kind of plan based on that. So budgetarily speaking, you just start there, and it's quite easy to get into because it's not that expensive to start. You do need to have your tools and so on to get going on the first kit. But from there, you can just budget slowly, and then you can stretch it out over a period of years. And so it's kind of like payments almost while you budget that. So I think it is doable to look at from that perspective, that you're definitely eating an elephant one bite at a time financially as well.
So I want to add to that a little bit. So I'm on my second airplane. I built the RV9 before, and both of the RV9 and the RV10, I bought a pre-owned empennage kit and a pre-owned wing kit. I want to say I paid $500 for my empennage kit on the 9 and $2,000 for my wing kit on the 9. The wing kit was untouched. I drove up to Sault Ste. Marie, Canada with a trailer, crossed the border with an empty trailer and crossed it back with a full trailer on the way back. You can imagine if I got stopped or not, right? And it was a similar experience with the 10, where I just found a guy online who had started his empennage. He had bought the empennage and the wing kit, and he had started the empennage, and life changed, right? It happens. And he decided to sell, and he just wanted to move it. And I paid half price for a lightly touched empennage, and an untouched wing kit. And that's an easy way to save money. As Steve said, there are a lot of empennage kits out there, and there are also a lot of wing kits out there. I've had no luck finding a fuselage kit pre-owned.
Well, we started with fresh new empennage kit, and so far everything we have just budgeted for, and I think that is somewhere where it can be helpful to start budgeting for the next kit while you're working on the current kit. And it does help, I think, again, that you buy each kit individually, so it's not a upfront cost of buying all the kits at once. I think the big thing, and Steve kind of touched on this in his last video, but there's a lot of additional costs. I think sometimes people are a little surprised with the cost of tools. And I would say we probably spent almost as much on the tools as we did on the empennage kit, because, I mean, it's going to be different. I know some people already have a pretty good workshop, but I didn't already have an air compressor and a bandsaw and a drill press and a bench grinder. I knew how to use them, but I didn't actually own one. And so going and getting some of those things and having them, now that said, you don't necessarily need to get the biggest or the best of whatever those tools. And I know there's people who are able to get secondhand tools, and same thing, you can kind of buy some of those piecemeal. But even since we started, we've added on a lot of things to our tool set, whether it's other yokes for the squeezer or different dimple dies, or pick something. So that's another area where, just to keep it in mind, I guess I would just say, don't budget for the minimum of what you think. Maybe make sure to put some padding in there just to help make it more comfortable. But the total overall cost, there's so much variability. It's kind of hard, I think, to give. We all might, especially, for example, the three of us all doing an RV10, I have a feeling we're all going to end up on really different final costs, just because of different decisions or add-ons or whatever that we make.
And I was going to hit on that real quick. I think variables in cost, obviously, and you guys could just rapid fire save, is it stuff like paint is going to massively change your cost, or panels? How sound deadened do you want the interior to be? There's some of that comfort stuff, right, that adds cost, I'm assuming?
Well, I've seen people spend as little as $110,000, and I've seen people that have literally budgeted $350,000 for their build. Because I've got a lot of builders that share with me their spreadsheet of what they've got, and some people get really, really picky about what they want, and for the lack of a better term, anal about their spreadsheets. And I hate to tell them this, but it's that's great and all, but that number is too low. It's going to be higher than that, because there is all these incidental things. But yeah, if you're going to bet, are you going to put in there, which class are you going to put in there? Are you going to put Dynon? Are you going to put Garmin? Or are you going to put steam gauges? Things like that. Are you going to put carpet? Are you going to paint the interior? Are you going to paint the exterior? You're going to wrap it? It's endless. You could spend a lot, or not. Well, you're going to spend a lot, but you can spend a lot or a lot more.
Yeah, so it's really true. I think some of the stuff with, if you are having help from or doing it yourself. So there's people who go out and they paint it themselves, and it saves them a lot of money. I don't want to have to set up a paint booth. So I already know who I'm planning to use to go and paint the plane, and I know it's going to cost five figures to go and get the paint job that I want, but I know what I want, and I know that that's somewhere where I'm okay budgeting that extra money for it. Avionics, if you're going to do VFR, IFR, in the interior, I know there's people who've built their own seats, they've upholstered them themselves, or you can say, I don't really want to do that, so I'd rather pay somebody else. It kind of just depends on what your comfort level is with some of the different tasks, and how much of it is time versus money that you want to balance out. Something I totally thought of, though, is to keep in mind the cost for replacement pieces. You're going to have a boo-boo. You're going to have more than one boo-boo. And some of the parts, just because of what it takes to package and ship them. I've had parts where I've paid a lot more for the shipping than I have for the part itself to get replaced. So I wouldn't say it's a huge part of the budget, but it is just something I think to be aware of, that is another little line item you should make sure to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah. So my last episode, actually, we basically talked about all the not airplane things. So, facilities, tools, supplies, and broke it down by month. And we're like a little over, I guess we're a year and a half in, trying for a 2-year-ish completion. We're a bit behind because this pandemic thing happened, slowed us down a little bit. I think I'm one of the only builders that got slowed down by it. Everyone else was like, I got time now. But for us, because we're building at a museum with a bunch of retired guys, that literally created a problem for all those obvious reasons. But we landed on a cost that is pretty close to all of it, which was $7,400 USD for all the wood we used to build things, all the tools we bought, minus a couple of big ones like the air compressor, which was already in the hangar, and heating for the hangar. Like some people, you got to buy a heating system for your garage. So that wasn't included here. But anyway, my last episode broke that all down in pretty big detail. But it surprised me, to be honest, that it was that small of a number. I was expecting it to be bigger than that for all of the tooling and supplies, down to rolls of tape and primer and just, paper towels, just incidentals, or what do you call them, consumables, things that you just use. So I was impressed that it was that small of a number by the time we got this far into the build, and we think we've spent pretty much most of it at this point that we're going to need. So that's something we kind of don't think about maybe, is what are the non-airplane costs.
And I think, as I've talked to other experimental aviators and builders, I think it's important that, we're talking, you guys are all building various Vans aircraft right now, but that same, not every aircraft is going to have that price range that Jason mentioned, I think, not like 100 to 300. They might be, but there'll be a range, right? It might be like, hey, like 30 to 100 or 100 to 200, right? There's going to be some sort of range depending on what you do. And I think that no matter what you're building, depending on the technique, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, this is just me nerding out on it, right? Like the ability, like there's going to be that, you're going to need a shop. You're going to need, if you're building a composite, you're going to need to buy some stock in sandpaper, right? Like it's all different, but you need to think about those things.
Yeah, what I've heard a lot of people say, and has worked out about right for me, is if you look at the base kit price from the manufacturer, your total price is going to be 3 to 4x that. So if the kit from, is it a Kit Fox or a Vans or whatever, they say, buy all the aluminum from us and it's $40,000, your out the door cost when you're done with the airplane is probably going to be about 160, 150, 100. And that math has worked out for me. And I've heard other people say that, 3 to 4x what the kit cost is about right.
That sounds about right based on what we've been looking at with our math too. And the numbers probably about 4 times. So between the engine, the prop, the avionics, paint, interior, tools, again, other having to get replacement parts and just other incidentals, like again, setting up your workshop. So yeah.
Some of the prices for things that we've talked about, right? We talked about interior, for example, right? The range there is everything from like you're going to stitch this yourself and buy the fabric yourself. It's going to cost you about $500 in materials, right? But if you buy the interior from someone from an interior shop, an airplane interior shop, it's probably going to be about 10 grand, right? So that range is pretty big, and you can be anywhere in there. Same thing for paint, right? If you're going to paint yourself, you're probably going to spend about $2,000 if you're going to do it all yourself with materials and all that kind of stuff. And the high end on that range on painting an RV10 is probably about 25 grand. So you're going to be somewhere in there, right? You're not going to get a professional painter for less than maybe 10, 12, and that's going to be a very bare bones paint job. So these ranges are huge, right? And it depends on how much you want to do versus how much you want to hire out effectively.
Sure. You'd spend more on paint than I spent on my car. Just putting it out there.
I think one other quick thing before we switch off the money is also when we're talking about kind of different options and add-ons that you can do, and something you might keep in mind when you're looking at some of the stuff, like if it's the windows you're replacing, or like we just replaced the flap actuator. You sometimes will look at the price of what it is, the cost to buy that add-on. But I think what's important to also make sure to keep in mind is what is the cost of the part you would be getting from vans. So it's easy to go and look and say, okay, well, these, whatever, the brakes, the wheels, pick something that you're going to change. You want to go with a different brand or a different manufacturer and go, ooh, okay, wow, that's $4,000. But maybe if you go and you look at what it is that you would be getting with the kit from vans, maybe that's only $3,500 or $3,600. And so suddenly now it's not that big of a differential. And I think that's just something kind of important to keep in mind. Just bear in mind, it's not necessarily about you're adding like whatever, $4,000 or something to the build. You need to see what the price differential is between what it is you're looking to add and then what it is that already comes with the plane. I think that's just kind of an important little thing or distinction to keep in mind when you're looking at some of the budgeting.
So all this talk of money has me feeling a little overwhelmed, but we had a bunch of questions come in from all your various audiences, and one of the things that came up a couple of times was, this is my attempt at a TV style segue, was what about like shifting from money to like the actual build process? Are there moments where you've been frustrated, you've been overwhelmed? I mean, this is like a huge project. Like, I don't know, like I tried.
So I think one of the things I learned early on after a couple of expensive mistakes was that there is a point where you have to call it quits, right? Like it's not working out. The day is not working out, right? You've tried this 3 different times. You're getting really frustrated and upset at this. Stop. Go have a cup of coffee, right? Go do something else, because you're only going to make it worse if you keep at it right now. And yes. I've identified that in myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when you're doing, for me, the things that drive me nuts that I don't like are the very, very repetitive tasks. And a lot of people ask me all the time whether or not they should get the slow build or the quick build. And I say, go slow build all the way, except for the wings. Get the quick build wings. Because frankly, you work on a rib, you put all the drills, you do all the things, you get it flat, get it straight. And then you pick up and you work on a rib and you do all the things, you get it flat and straight. Then you work on a rib and then it's just endless. It's just there's however many of them in there, and you have to do it for 2 wings. And we're not even going to get into the fuel tanks. So it's just, for me, the repetition I don't like. I had a lot of people telling me, get the quick build fuselage. You're going to hate doing the fuselage because it's just a million different little tasks. No. That's what I enjoy. So that's my frustration, is the very repetitive, boring, put it in the bag, put it in the bag, put it in the bag, put it in the bag. And just after a while, it's like, I'm just, ugh. So that's when I have to walk away and go get a cup of coffee.
So I guess the follow-up question is like, how do you, because that's gonna be true of any aircraft build. Like, how do you take a break, you go have a cup of coffee or coffee with some adult beverage mixed in? What else do you guys do to make that tediousness of the build?
That's the thing when you reach out to your network. You call somebody. I've FaceTimed people before and been like, help me. What am I missing here? This doesn't make sense. Again, you call someone, you text somebody, you send them a picture, you get on one of the forums, you just start looking through the forums because odds are high somebody else has had the same question maybe that you've had or run into the same issue. And then it's twofold. One, you get the answer for how it is that you're supposed to do it or fix it or do it right. And the other thing is, I think there's a little bit of a reassuring thing when you realize you're not alone. You're not going to be the first person who has a problem. You're not going to be the first person who's made a mistake. You're probably not the first person in that particular spot where you're at, where you've run into this particular issue. So I think that's part of it, like getting your answer, but then also feeling a little bit better about the situation that somebody else has been there before.
Yeah, for me, that was definitely an experience, was realizing it's such a specific thing I wasn't understanding. And a couple of the guys I was working with at the time also figured out, and we couldn't quite wrap our head around what the instructions were saying. I was like, well, I'm the nerd on the team, the youngest guy, so I'm connected. So I went online and just knew how to search, thinking, I guess it's possible. And I found the exact answer to the question. Like, it was amazing. And exactly what Christine's saying. It was like, A, you get the answer, and B, you get the reassurance that you're not a moron. Like, there's something to be said for, I'm not alone. Someone else has had this exact problem. Okay. And it really does make you feel better, because I've definitely had times where I felt defeated, like frustrated while I'm trying to solve a problem, thinking, I got to take this on. I'm here for a few days of really focused building and filmmaking while I'm here. I want to really try to solve some tasks. And a couple times where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not able to solve this. And then you find the answer, and it is a thing that confuses someone else too. And then you get that answer and you feel like you're not alone. That was a big part of solving it, but also feeling like it's resolved, and it fixes that part of yourself that felt kind of like a failure, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
I would say for me, there's three ways that I power through. One is I listen to audiobooks and music. Two is I just get in there and power through or try to find it. But the third one is I make videos of it and I put my mistakes on YouTube. It's almost cathartic in a way, but it's one of those things I do so that other people can come along and go, that was stupid. Here's the solution. And so the solutions literally come to me. But also, let's not forget, you can always call Vans. Vans is always really good about answering the phone. If they have a problem, just give them a call.
Good point. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously, I think it's you're afraid to maybe call before you try to solve it, right? But absolutely, support is amazing. They've been amazing. But those couple of times we were able to solve a problem on our own, you feel like, yes.
Superhuman.
You know?
Yeah. Look at this.
I just go with not an idiot. I always like it when I can confirm I'm not a total idiot. That's the bar that I have set.
The answers are all out there. That's what always has surprised me, is that every time I'm stuck on something, I bang my head against the wall. I spend a half hour trying to figure this out, and then I go search Vans Air Force, and it's right there. Right, I could have saved myself 20 minutes by just searching for this right away.
So you're saying what I should do is just search Vans Air Force or whatever aircraft I decide to build. Just search for every step. How did you do this?
Pretty much.
Every time, not smart.
Right.
You'd spend more time online than you would building the plane, Ryan.
I say in every single one of my videos that I'm an idiot, and if I can build one of these planes, you can. And I mean it.
I mean, we haven't hung out in person yet, so you don't know my side. Don't put that on me. I'm a huge idiot. All right, so I have no way to segue to this one, but this is something that also came up in some folks, audience members that asked. There were people who are wondering about, and we talked about the mission and why you guys wanted to. We've already talked about that, but what about home built versus certified? And I think the one thing people are wondering about is safety. So I'm curious, anyone want to talk about that, safety versus a certified aircraft?
Yeah. So there's the EAA comes out with statistics on that every year, and they analyze it, and it shows up in the EAA magazine. I forget what it's called. And it recently did come out. So historically, experimental aircraft have been less safe than certified aircraft, but it's getting really tight. It's the difference is getting really tight now, especially with RVs. The safety ratio, how safe experimental aircrafts can easily be split up between RVs and not RVs, and the RVs are almost as safe as certified aircraft. But go look at the data. The data is all out there. The FAA publishes all of this, and different organizations, EAA in particular, do analysis on them every year and talk about, exactly what the causes are and what's safe and what's not safe and what we're doing to make it better.
I don't know if it's anecdotal or if it's something to mention, but I think part of that variable is that you are much more in control of your destiny. That's kind of what I tell people about GA is I consider GA to be quite safe because I'm super anal. I don't make stupid decisions as much as possible. I try real hard to not miss things on walkarounds or skip walkarounds. There's some people in aviation that can get lazy and just jump in, and do minimal walkarounds. And the same thing can be said for, owner, operator, maintenance. Those things can be places where the dominoes fall, and that maybe reflects badly on experimental if more of the AMP is taken out of the equation, because the owners can do a lot of their own maintenance. So I think if you just accept the fact that you can have more control of your own destiny, and you can really understand your aircraft, you can really do a lot better of a walk around because you actually understand what you're looking at. And I think a lot of pilots who do walk around on a 172 just really don't even know what they're looking at when they look under the hood, sort of thing. So we're much more familiar. We really do understand. So if you see something disconnected or loose, you'll know what it is, and chances are it won't even be loose because you'll have been looking at it more often. So I think you're in a position to either let that fall apart or let that be really tight with experimental, probably more so than with certified as a pilot, just because you're so much more intimately familiar with your aircraft.
Yeah, I can't say enough about what he just said. I mean, I will trust my plane infinitely more than the 172 I've been renting, because I will literally know every single rivet. And so you can't beat that knowledge.
So let's talk about riveting for a second. So I did that once, and I was wondering if you guys could, I don't know if you can see that. Here, let me switch to this camera. Like, can you, come on, camera. Oh, it's not going to work. Come on, focus. I wanted you guys to, there we go. Judge my riveting. How'd I do?
Well, there's a couple. You're not too bad. A couple smiley faces there.
Yeah.
This is my first time ever doing it. These are my first 10
then
rivets.
you're ready to order your plane.
Yeah, you're okay.
You're ready to order another airfoil kit.
Let's see the other side, though. The shop head is, that's what kind of also matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah? Yeah? I passed muster?
The one side is
Ryan.
about the aesthetics. The other side is about will it fall apart or not.
So it's ugly, but it won't fall apart, is what you're saying.
You got a
All right.
good looking shop head. Yeah.
All right.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm going to take it.
So while we
All
were
right.
talking, I just quickly Googled this. The accident rate for experimental aircraft is less than 1% higher than the general aviation fleet.
Well done. There we go.
That's nice.
That's all of them, not including vans and everything else too.
That's everybody. This is on
Wow.
EAA.org. They're talking about a study from the FAA and NTSB.
That's
There you
pretty
go.
cool. I mean that. Yeah.
If you still believe in science, you have your answer.
I mean, and that delta really is probably just because of the lack of AMPs looking at it.
For sure. Okay, we're almost out of time. I want to dig into some I want to dig into some home building nerd questions. So some of these are going to go over my head. You were talking about yolk dimple dye something before, and all I was thinking is that I want to eat eggs later. Let's talk about tools. Do you have a favorite tool to use?
The pneumatic squeezer, hands down.
Pneumatic
100%
squeezer.
the pneumatic squeezer.
Everyone agrees with that. What about a tool you bought and you didn't need?
Oh,
Shears.
I use shears.
Do you?
I like
I don't
the
ever
shears.
use mine.
It's very rare. It's only when I can't reach it because whatever. But there's one tool that I bought with the RV9 right in the beginning that I am yet to even install. It was a quick release, chuck. You put the little chuck on the drill bits, and so that you can quick release the drill bits. I started putting this together, and I was like, no, I'm done. I'm gonna go drill something. I'm not gonna waste my time.
I think
I would say I probably have one or
two
two too many bucking bars.
There's no such thing.
Wait, say that.
I was
Yeah, we
saying
got
what I
a
said is
bucket.
I bought way too many bucking
Whoa.
bars.
Wait, hang on a second.
and
Siri just tried to call a guy named Jason. Say that again, Say that again, Jason.
What I said is I bought way too many bucking bars, and I found that I really only use my one tungsten bucking bar and one of the footer bars. That's really all you need, even though I have 4 others sitting around.
So I
have a file that's too rough that I don't like that we got when it came with, I think, our kit, and the teeth are too far apart. It's just it's too much for what I need it for, and so we ended up getting a different fix and file that was smaller and just more appropriately sized. So I think I think that's maybe the only thing I would say I haven't used, but I think there's other stuff where I've upgraded tools. So like we started out for the blind rivets, the pop rivets with the manual gun until we had about 4 different mandrels break on it. And that just got to be a pain in the butt, having to keep stopping to get them out and then drill out those rivets and then try again. And so somebody had suggested, they're like, hey, you could go and get a pneumatic one for like $39. So why don't you just do that? And it was like, okay, yeah, it's worth the $40 to not be driving myself crazy over here trying to keep fixing these rivets that kept breaking. And so now that's something I don't use, but I started it, I tried it. I think it was like, let's try this. It was a slightly less expensive option than then going, it's $40. I'm building a plane that's costing 6 figures. Just get the daggum tool and it's going to make my life so much easier and happier and faster and simpler.
What about, someone asked this, what's the weirdest thing you had to buy?
Weirdest thing. I go through a lot of painter's tape. A lot of painter's tape.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd use that much painter's tape building an airplane.
Okay.
Wood. The wood, really, because it started with the table and building our workbench. And then there's just been a lot of times where you end up using all your different scrap because, like, say you want to prop a piece up when you're drilling through it, and because of the different shape or bend, you want something underneath that you don't want to go through your table. When you're doing the trailing edges and you need to try and make sure to keep everything flat, and you end up laying a big 2x4 with weights on it. I think wood is probably the weirdest thing to realize how much we've reached for a 2x4 and used it, but not just like one size. I have bits as like, I mean, super thin little slivers of 2x4, and then I have bigger blocks that are more like 6 inches to a foot long. I think that's probably the weirdest thing, is not thinking about how much wood we were going to end up using throughout the build on the aluminum plane.
Yeah, that's actually the title of my latest episode. I literally put that, lumber with question marks, like how much money you spend on lumber to build a metal plane. That was like the thesis of my recent episode. Absolutely, totally surprised by that.
And if you interview the Pete and Pole guys and gals, they're going to be like, I didn't think I'd be using this much aluminum. It's just inverse, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay, what about, because we're running up on time, but, we've got a lot of useful tips as we've talked tonight. But if each of you, I don't know, if maybe we could start, we'll just go, I keep doing it in reverse. So go around the circle. Maybe we'll start with Steve and go around. If you had one tip for a new builder, someone like me who's like, hey, I did this, I'm in it, let's go.
Yeah.
One tip, solidified down. Why don't we start with Steve?
Well, I mean, I guess from my experience, the tip is leverage the community. I don't think that's an original or unique tip, but know that, yes, it can be done alone, but you don't need to feel like you're alone. So you could do it in your garage by yourself, but you have so much help that you can get. So just don't try to approach it like you're isolated, even if you are. Just know that the community is there, and there's going to always be someone that can even help you, like Christine was saying, via FaceTime. You can just show them, like, I can't figure this out. And they're like, well, you got it upside down or whatever. You know what I mean? So that to me, I think, was what held me up from thinking about starting way back before. I mean, when I was looking at that picture in 2001, I didn't have nearly the access to the community that I have now. And I think it was just my fault for being shy. It's like, don't be shy, go after it, and know that the community is there and they got your back.
Rock on. Christine, what about you?
Read section 5.
Yes.
Like, actually read it. It's the part in your instructions that Vans has put together that talks about how do you rivet? How do you tell if a rivet's bad? What is it telling you that you're doing wrong with the way that the rivet looks if it's bad? How you're supposed to do trailing edges. There's a lot there is so much useful information in there. And I think that the best thing really is to really sit down and read it, because if nothing else, then when you get to something in the instructions, you might suddenly go, oh, wait a minute, I remember reading something about this, and it will make you go back. So I think it will help make you a little less prone to a mistake, perhaps, if you have already actually sat down and read it. And I know you're going to get your kit and you're going to be excited and you're just going to get started, but like really, really, really sit down and spend the time to actually read through it. You might not need to get to like the electrical stuff in there right away when you're starting the empennage, but at least all the manufacturing tips that they've taken the time to put there, read it and try to absorb it a little bit, just so that you'll feel, I think, more confident too if you then run into a hiccup going, oh, wait a minute, okay, I remember something about this.
And they actually wrote a section in the manual that is like kind of a personal advice paragraph, right? It's like, this will be the most frustrating thing you ever. I don't think they even, when I was editing, it's in there, but when I was editing that one, I started it that way, and I was talking to Greg about it, and it was like, the way it's worded is, this will be the most rewarding, but they actually do have a sentence in there that says this will also be some of the most frustrating, but also rewarding stuff you do. So you have to know you are going to come up against that. Just so frustrating, and you will feel defeated at times. So yeah, what Christine said is important, because that early parts of the instructions address that. It's going to be amazing, rewarding, frustrating, all of those things. Just know it's not going to be all sunshine and lollipops, but if you go into it with that expectation, you've got a real shot at success.
Awesome. Gil, what about you? What's your one tip?
I'm going to cheat. I have 2 tips. The first one is, so I believe that right now when you buy an empennage kit, they're going to include one of the practice kits. I think it's the Airfoil or something like that. Buy a second one of those. And here's what you should do. Build the Airfoil kit. It's going to look nasty. You're going to have dings and dents and look like it's not going to look good. Drill out every single one of those rivets and build it again with the same kit that you built the first time, right? It's still not going to look great. Drill out every single one of those rivets and do it a third time. Now it's going to start actually looking pretty good, right? But the skins are going to be dented up from the previous ones and all this kind of stuff. So put that one aside and now start on the fresh little sub-kit that you got, and build that. And it's going to look good, and you're going to be happy. You know, you're going to have more confidence starting your actual airplane parts now that you've built this one thing. And you're going to learn how to drill out rivets, which is possibly the most important skill when building an RV, is drilling out rivets without ruining them. And my second tip, this has really helped me on some of the, I counted, and there are 30 ribs, Jason, in the and so this is what's helped me with that. When you go into the shop that day, right, for your work session, figure out what it is you expect to get done that day, right? So if I have a pile of 30 ribs that I need to deburr, I hate deburring stuff. I hate deburring ribs more than anything else. I'm going to pick 15 of those ribs, and I'm going to say, I'm going to deburr all of those ribs today. And I'm going to sit there, I'm going to turn the TV on, and I'm going to deburr 15 ribs. And when I'm done deburring 15 ribs, I just deburred half the ribs in the airplane. That's 50% of all of the terrible things I have to do on the entire airplane. Are those. So figure out what you want to do that day, and don't make it insurmountable, right? Make it something that you can do in a sitting, right? Like deburring 15 ribs is going to take you 2 hours, right? It's a terrible 2 hours, but it's going to be 2 hours and then it's over. So figure out what you're going to do that day and just do it.
Jason, what about you, Jason, in terms of your one tip?
Well, since Gil took 2, I'm going to take 3, but I'll make them real quick. The first one is organization. Make sure when you get your kits, put your stuff away, know where everything is, because remember, this is a long-term project. And so for me, for example, I've been working on this for 5 years. And so 5 years ago, when I finished part of the empennage and I needed a certain piece, put it somewhere where you're going to be able to find it in 5 years. So that's a big one, is organization, especially with all the little whatsits and widgets and whatnots, which you get a lot of. Make sure you have good organization. The second one is this is a long-term project. And when you walk into this, it's real easy to look at the plane as a whole and go, how can I build that? It's so big. Well, of course, we have the saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Look at each step, accomplish that step, then go to the next step. That's how you build it. It's IKEA. If you can put tab A in slot B over and over and over again, you can build anything. And then finally, the final thing is mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. I have on my videos my mistake admitting time where I've told myself from the beginning that I would always be 100% honest, brutally so, about the stupid things I've done because, hey, I'm human and other people might know something that I don't know. And just know that I have yet to make a mistake that I can't fix. So mistakes are going to happen. Don't let it frustrate you. Don't let it get you down. If I can do it, you can do it.
Except for Ryan, maybe not. Jury's still out with Ryan.
So we're gonna get you to build airplane parts. You're like a half hour away from me. We're gonna get
no. There's one of my Patreon supporters has an RV that he's built, and he's practically threatening to like just order the empennage kit and then send me the bill just to like force me to do it. No, if it's an event, yeah, you guys are convincing me. You're convincing me. It could be fun. I don't know. I'm proud of this. I'm proud, like this dumb little thing. Like I'm proud of this. So imagine if I took that pride and multiplied it by an airplane.
Well, you should be, because I mean, we all started somewhere, and I mean, I did like wood and metal shop, and I felt really comfortable using a lot of the different tools and like being in the garage, but I hadn't done rivets before, so going on like an airplane, it was just you have to start somewhere, and I think that's kind of the big thing. You started with that little sample that you put together, and that's a great place to start. And I bet you probably learned some different things, and so the next time you do it, it's going to be a little bit better. And again, what's a dimpled eye? You're going through the inventory with the tools was probably the funniest thing, because it's listing all of these different components. You're like, I don't know what this is. So it's a really great way to familiarize yourself with your tools is when you're doing your inventory on the tools that you've ordered. But you start somewhere. It's kind of the same way with starting the plane. You're gonna start learning, and so start with your little demo kit there, and you will just get more comfortable with all the stuff. You don't think that like all of us are people who are just, have always just been in a shop and know how all of this works automatically and have been using all these tools for forever. Because I mean, definitely in my case, that's not it. Again, I didn't have like the bandsaw, I didn't have the drill press. I got a lot of these tools just for the build.
Just threw my pen across the room. Okay, that's how excited I am. Just threw my pen across the room. No, just kidding. Dudes, my new friends, my home building friends, the people who are gonna make me do this someday. This has been really awesome to have you guys, all of you, all over this amazing internet device, to have you all on the show at once to talk about home building and experimental aircraft. I can't thank you guys enough. Everyone, I'll put links down below to everyone on here's channel. If you're thinking about building an aircraft, reach out. And thanks again to everyone who's in the chat right now, chatting with us. Super awesome to have you there. And I don't know. Anyone have any closing thoughts? A word of wisdom? Short one. A short word of wisdom?
Get after it.
Yeah.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Go get it.
You can do it. It's easier than you think.
Yeah.
Yep. Just go out there and find some help and ask. Just ask. That's the big thing. Ask. Someone will help you.
Just ask. Get after it. Just ask. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching this week. We'll see you next week. Since we're pre-recording this, I got no idea who's going to be on the show, but it's going to be awesome. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next week.